Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to yet another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Marshall. Today is all about the African justice system, or the justice system in Africa, taking a clear example from what is going on right now in Zimbabwe. Yes, the president gave an executive order for, talking about the Minister for Justice, his tenure to be extended by 5 years, but a group of young lawyers came together. They kicked against it, and that executive order was jettisoned. Now, that is just a case in Africa. What about other cases where, the #1 man in the police force, his tenure was extended by some months, and people have been talking about it. Nothing was done until something happened. People have been trying to draw examples of what is really happening in Africa in terms of judiciary. That is what we'll take a look at today. Is Africa beginning to get it gradually, or that is just an exception when you talk about the judiciary system in Africa? With me here in the studio to talk about this, I have a clergyman, a public affairs commentator. Join me to welcome Reverend Frank Arega. Reverend, welcome to Africa. Humphrey Arega. Yes. Humphrey Arega, welcome. Welcome to Africa Discourse.
Thank you very much, and welcome our viewers.
I appreciate your coming. Very close to him also is a legal practitioner, human rights activist, public affairs commentator. Join me to welcome Barrister Henry Wanzo. Barrister, welcome to Africa Discourse.
Good afternoon, viewers at home. You are welcome.
All right. We're expecting Frank Amega. When he comes in, he will join us all in the discussion to really talk about all this and see how we're going to carve out a niche for ourselves when we talk about the judicial system in Africa. I want to start off from you, Barrister, because you are in that field. Something happened in Zimbabwe. The president was given exceptional powers through the constitution, and for the very first time he tried to exercise or flex the muscles behind the power. It backfired because a group of young lawyers saying, look, that is not going to work. It's not possible because of the law. How would you want to paint that scenario? Executive order versus constitution, or the law backing the judiciary? In this case, which one came out tops?
Well, you see, sometimes I begin to wonder why some African leaders have refused to learn from history. History continues to repeat itself in the manner and way most African leaders conduct their actions. Not quite long in Zimbabwe, we are talking about Robert Mugabe, the man that was there for more than 5 decades, as it were. And suddenly, Emerson emerged. And the man himself had decided to write his name in the book of the forgotten ones, if I am not mistaken. You see, the constitution is very clear. In every country in the world, they have their constitution, just as we have in Nigeria, as it were. The constitution is the ground norm. Nothing supersedes it. There's no law you are going to make that the constitution takes preeminence. That is what the law is saying. The constitution is very clear. By the time the judge gets, the senior judges, they get to the age of 70, is that the man was to retire on Saturday on the 15th. Suddenly, the man decided that he was going to extend it. He has gone to the parliament. And the parliament, because he has ZANU PF, has the greatest number in the members in the parliament. And they went ahead to approve it, as it were, for him. But not putting into consideration the constitution. Because the constitution says that if you are going to do this, there must be a referendum. It must go back to the people. The people will decide. But the members of the parliament, because they have been elected, as it were, took the decision and then asked the man to go ahead. So the man was getting. Then you now see the lawyers, because the opposition leader himself is a lawyer, he now went to court. And you see the wisdom of the 3 gentlemen in the High Court who took the decision and decided that the law, the constitution, will take preeminence. And that is why they gave their judgment saying that the action he has taken falls short of what the Constitution has demanded. The Constitution demands that if there is going to be a review, you must take it back to the people. There must be a referendum. The people will now vet it and take a decision as it were, which the president did not do. So he believes that he would have used his executive power, take a decision, and nobody will challenge it. But thank God for the opposition leader and the lawyers in Zimbabwe who have taught us right that you can't continue with the same thing. It happened here when the Inspector General of Police his tenure was extended for some months. People raised issues. Because it was a constitutional issue. And when it comes to a constitutional issue, people will look at it. What did the Constitution say? What is the position of the law in respect of a particular issue?
All right.
And that is what you find in Zimbabwe today, as it were.
All right, I'll come back to you, Barrister Henry Wanzo. Well, Reverend Humphrey, I believe that you are conversant with the judiciary system, even if you are not, a legal practitioner, so to speak.
Very part of the learned gentleman.
All right, so what do you have to say about this executive order versus the Constitution?
I believe, just like the learned man has said, African presidents do not process issues. They believe in power. And I keep saying that the African leaders do not want to accept the fact that democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They still believe that the autocratic rule is always the best. But this is not an exception of legal issues. You remember when Kenya had an election, and the judiciary faltered it, and they annulled the election. This is where sometimes we begin to say that when there is an impartial judiciary that is separate from the control of the executive, countries will feel better. When the executive is allowed to be the supreme authority, then we have problem in our hands. My problem with this man, first of all, is that people remove Mugabe from government because of his tyrannical issues. And when African leaders are trying to, they deceive the people by some beautiful words, and then they come back and do worse. He didn't only just change the laws. He went to parliament to change the laws and gave himself more power to do anything, But he's also not, like I said, people don't process things. When you are pursuing power with all might, you don't think that there are issues that need to be done. And our citizens have to be very watchful for their democracy to thrive. That's also the purpose where there should supposed to be an opposition, because the opposition is supposed to make the executive know that there is something else you are not seeing. And that is their work as a watchdog, to look at the thing. And, when the judiciary is free from, and that's why appointment of judges has to be very, very discreet. It shouldn't allow the executive to be in charge. Because the executive want to muzzle every other arm so that they can have all the powers that they need to, which is different from the democracy we are seeing from the Western environment. And I believe that the lawyers in our own continent should begin to see themselves as watchdog. If there is an action that is at variance with the Constitution is the grand norm. Everybody is under the Constitution. So if the Constitution does not give you that power and right, you can't exercise it. Okay. Unfortunately, the parliament in Africa do not seem to know why they are there. And that's why I like Malema of South Africa. You see, again, you have to have individuals who are radical in some points to say, look, if you go wrong, I will tell you are wrong, and stand up to say it. It doesn't matter what you talk about. Presidents fear such persons. It's unfortunate that people just believe that the executive can do anything. Once the executive sees that you are loud and bold, they try as much as possible to bring into themselves, because they know that whatever they do, you are going to embarrass them. Okay. And I believe that it's a good omen for the fact that at least there's one glimmer of light in some situations in Africa. We are not just dark. We know what's supposed to happen, and these judges have shown that you need to be right to do what is right for the people. Unfortunately, I'm also saying the This is a Supreme Court judge, Chief Judge, who ought to be the custodian
of the law.
Who knows it?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. The person of Luke Malaba is what we're talking about, because he's like, the #1 judge in Zimbabwe. And reports having that they have this collaboration with Emerson Mnangagwa, the one that took over from Robert Mugabe, but saying that it has something to do with forthcoming election. In the course of the discussion, we're going to dive into that also. Well, I've introduced him before, and now he's here with us in the studio. Join me, welcome, Honorable Frank Amigo. Welcome to Africa Discourse.
Thank you so much.
All right, I believe that in course of his analysis, we're listening to the points he was given. Now, what are your views on what is happening right now in Zimbabwe? It's like the young lawyers versus the president, and of course, it's like the young lawyers are beginning to garner more support from what they said. Chief Judge, you have to please step down. It's your time to retire. Take it up from there.
Yes, what is playing out now was carefully orchestrated by the president. Because in 2013, there was a constitutional amendment that paved way for 70 years retirement. And the judge, the chief judge, celebrated his birthday on Saturday with the hope that he will step aside for others to come on board. But just before that birthday, on the 15th, on the 11th of it, a letter came from the president to the chief judge that it has been further extended by 5 years. So there is greed on the part of the chief judge, because he ought to have known. What happened is a breach of their own constitution, section 328 of their constitution, that if there's going to be any amendment in that regard, it shouldn't be in favor of a sitting officer. It should step aside. Otherwise, there should be a referendum to that effect. So, as you earlier said, that what the Chief Justice is combating now is a pressure from the president, such that he will remain in office, that whenever the next election will come up, he will be the one to carefully bet his next tenure in office. So we might want to cast aspersions on the integrity or the personality of the chief judge. It's just that he's greedy, but the whole thing is carefully orchestrated by the president. So that is my take on that.
All right, that is greedy. Yes. Now, I want to come to you. He used the word greed.
Yes.
In this regard, who is greedy? After all, the offer was made to him by the president, the #1 man in the country, Emerson Mnangagwa, the #1 man of Zimbabwe. Is it greed on the part of the chief judge?
Well, you will look at it from that angle. It's a common factor with most Africans. When they get to positions of authority, they find it difficult living when the ovation is very loud. The man has served his people, as it were. Constitutionally, at the age of 70, you are supposed to die. Today, the Honorable Chief Judge of Edo State has retired at the age of 65. With the governor on his own, unilateral, or maybe going to the House of Assembly, they make a law that they will extend it for her, knowing fully well that at the age of 65, which came to an end today, gloriously for her, and Joe Archer was sworn in as the acting Chief Judge of Edo State. It's the same thing that is blowing. It's the usual attitude of Africans. If the man is not greedy, if the man does not want to continue to eat from that pot which himself and the president has been eating from, because the president, they knew where they are coming from, and he believed that this is the only person I can keep to enable me actualize that which I have actually want to do, as it were. You have gone to the parliament. The parliament has given you the executive, but you have forgotten that the constitution equally stipulates that it must go back to the people. There must be a referendum. And again, the law equally says that even at that, the person who is still in office will not be a beneficiary. That is to say that those who the law at that time is made, already they are occupying that seat, that those who will not be, it will be those who are coming. And the man knows quite well all this. So the issue of greed, again, comes in. And again, you look at it from the pressure, from the presidency, as it were, because they want to keep him, because they know the reason why they want to keep him. And himself too want to continuously be in their good, do their bidding, as it were. So the issue of greed, just like my brother here has said, comes into it. And again, you also look at the role being played by the presidency because it's somebody that is orchestrating. I know sometimes, as it were, the man might not want to continue, but because of the pressure, he knows. Sometimes the consequences are higher when he decided to throw in the towel, unceremoniously as it were. It might not last the next day. Something might happen to him. It can be an accident along the road. It can be a stray bullet from nowhere, kill him, and they will say they are still investigating, looking for those who has killed him. So these are the issues. You know, we look at it. We might not look at it completely, that it was greed on the part of the man. We also look at it from the angle that if the man decided to step down when these people wanted him to do their bidding, what happens to him?
Good question, because I'm coming to you on that. Now, on one hand, both of them agree that it's great the part of Luke Malaba, and on the other hand, they're talking about pressure from the presidency headed by Emerson Mnangagwa. Which is it right now in this scenario, Reverend?
You see, whatever comes to us as humans are things we either desire or things we do not understand. In this instant, the chief judge cannot be ignorant of the laws of the land. And for him to have, what if you have gotten to the age of 70, what are you looking for in life? You have gone to the peak of your profession. So what else is remaining? Every executive act is to protect the executive, not the man they are using. The man they are using is just a tool to achieving their result. The presidency knew what they are talking about. This president has shown that he is not a Democrat. He has gagged the press. He has also eliminating opposition. So he is exhibiting, and I keep saying, the man and Mugabe were in the same team. They were in the same struggles together, all of these militant and all of them. So when people like that comes to me to tell me I'm not a Democrat, I've never believed it. And these are things that are playing out. But unfortunately, in both of these cases, my fault will be squarely on the parliament, who is supposed to understand what, they are the one that makes laws. They are the one that knows the nitty-gritty of a law. So they should have understood that giving the executive the power to do an executive fiat without a referendum as approved by the Constitution was even an unconstitutional act. And I thank God for the lawyer that took up that case, because each day we look, it's not because we don't have laws in our land. It's because we refuse to practice what the law states. And this is where money and greed comes in, because every human being is looking for good life. I'm sure, like the judge wants, he looks at, like I say, most of the African leaders, they have no business after they retire. If they leave office, that's the end of the story. Look at every African leader and tell me which of them is still functional, even when they left office, because they didn't prepare their mind for that. So they want to stay there for life. So the chief judge also has his own weaknesses, which is, then one would have been questioning how he became the chief judge. Because if you are coming on the strength of law, on the strength of integrity, and the strength of understanding, he shouldn't have allowed himself to be in that position. Now he's spoiling almost all that he has done by the fact that he wants to remain. And I told him, his colleagues have told him, you cannot remain beyond the 17th.
Right. Beyond 17th, which is today.
Yes, and the judges and all, what they will do if he wants to remain is that they all refuse to attend cases, and they go on strike. And then you see how the nation will be.
All right, now he raised an aspect talking about the parliament. He went there, and of course the powers were given to him. Is it a crime for the president to exercise his power? After all, according to the law, that is within his right.
It's a power play, sort of. And it would be a useful digression to refer us to Nigeria. At the time, the former IGP was there. And it was in a way like this, the president, Muhammadu Buhari, extended his stay. A lot of us complained, but at the end of the day, nothing happened. That's an African situation. And not quite long, he was, in quote, disgraced out of office. So, going back to Zimbabwe, while Malaba is still there, his hands would have touched some wrong things as far as the Constitution is concerned. It would have helped the president to do one or two things, and it would have been duly compensated. One good turn, they say, deserves another. So this is a second turn. So for Malabar to reject it now will be very difficult. And a little bit of deviation from Reverend, that in a short while it will fizzle out. Those agitating, most times Nigerians are so hungry. It will be a moral thing to do to say, okay, we'll drop our things, no more work. But in an African setting, that won't last a few days. The next thing they ask themselves, what was your problem? What do you want? And in telling you what you want is about money. The next few set of people you're going to hear speak in Zimbabwe now will see the actual reasons that you are not seeing that is making the president assent to that extension of his stay. And if you are not careful, they'll convince you. So, my own is the president, Emerson, wants the next term. Who can do this is Malabar. So, Malabar is the one that will still stay there. No matter the hue and cry of the Zimbabweans, nobody's going to listen to that. Because absolute power, they say, corrupts absolutely. Is that an absolute corruption now that is making President Emerson to do a thing that he ought not to have done as a president in the first instance? He's a bad president to set. Though he has some reasons to do such things, claiming from previous presidents in Africa, but he should do what is right at this point in time, judging from where Zimbabwe is coming from. Zimbabwe right now is like a joke. Their currency is like a joke. The economy is nosediving, snowballing into anarchy. So one would expect for a reasonable person at this point in time, if Malabar is not there, or if he's dead for any reason, can somebody else fix that thing? We know he's going to fix his re-election.
Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah, he's going to fix it. So okay. There can be somebody else that could do what Malabar is to do now. So allow Malabar to leave the scene. Let me advise him, look for another Malabar to do the work.
All right, I'll come back to you in quest of another Malabar to do the job. It's like this is an issue of give and take. And there is a very strong point in Africa. Absolute power corrupt absolutely. And right now, the president has been imbibed or endued with so much power. Do you think that the agitation of these lawyers, even the justices that really sat over the issue will hold sway? Now, if you look at Emerson Mnangagwa had already made a decree, you must remain there for the next 5 years. How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, just as there's going to be conflict, and the conflict will also, definitely snowball into a long period of agitations, as it were. They are going to appeal, just as he tweeted. He said that as their celebration lasts, I know they will go to appeal. And again, where the conflict will show is because the same persons in the Supreme Court were also part of the suit. And these same persons are the persons they are agitating for, that they should have additional 5 years added to their 70 years, which have been officially their retirement age. So there's going to be a conflict. These persons, the president is seeking an extension in time we will be in office from 70 to 75. And this matter is going before them. By the time it gets to the appeal, get to the Supreme Court. What is going to happen? That is another issue that will come up. But I know that the opposition leader and those lawyers who have been present, they will continue. It is a constitutional issue. It's a consideration. They will, at the end of the day, they will now know how they're going to interpret it. Because the Constitution clearly stipulates that at the time you are 70 years of age, you go. If there's going to be any amendment, just as the Constitution, the members of the Parliament have been gagged, the man has influenced them with money and everything, as it were, and they have given him that power, as it were. But they forgot to issue again that this power you have given to this man, the Constitution was stipulates that you must take it back to the people, to the referendum. And at the end of the day, again, the referendum will take a decision. And again, that if at all you are going to oppose that amendment, as it were, that those who are already serving will not be a beneficiary. The law is very clear. So if they are going to manipulate it because the senior judges who are in the Supreme Court, as it were, are part of those who are sued, and they are the beneficiaries, as it were, because there's going to be a conflict. There's going to be a long period of agitation. And I know that the opposition leader, who is a lawyer, with his team of lawyers who are agitating for this constitutional change, as it were, they will not, there's no way they are going to give up. I know of a truth. They are not like ordinary persons who are pushing for a change. But this has to do with, we have to be in court. Let the court take a decision, as it were. If at the end of the day it goes the other way around because of the persons who are there and because of their own personal interest, that is where the issue of interest comes in. The issue of interest comes in because those people who are there, but if they are men of honor, they should be able to uphold the constitution, because posterity itself will always remember them, either for good or for bad.
There's an open window, we'll call it an open door to appeal. And when the opportunity is like, arises, anything can happen. I'm not saying it's not backing down. The lawyers also, they are not backing down. They are willing to see this matter through. And everything is just at the doorstep of the Supreme Court. That's where everything is happening. Sue, counter sue. Do you feel there's going to be a stay of execution in all this? After all, nature doesn't allow vacuum.
Well, in every process, there must be a final resolution. The thing that both of them should be looking at, especially the president, who is your interest in this matter? You are elected as a president to serve the country, to make sure the country progresses and go according to the laws that are made. If you as a president can openly violate a constitution, how do you talk to the ordinary people to make the constitution work?
All right, you just hold on. I want to go for a break. When we return, you continue with your chain of thoughts. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Do stay tuned. All right, you saw that in our breaking about our news headlines, making the running of current stories, breaking news just coming up. You saw INEC office in Enugu burnt, and of course the protest in Kaduna State. So many other stories making the rounds in Nigeria. Wherever you are, just keep praying for this country and eventually we'll get through this stage. Well, this is Africa Discourse. If you just joined us, we're taking a look at the justice system in Africa. Of course, we delve down into what is going on right now in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's president Ordeal, he gave an order due to the powers given to him by the parliament, backed by the constitution, but still in that constitution, there are some persons picking on the loopholes, saying, look, you just can't do it this way. This is a status quo. It's like a stalemate, but there's an open door for an appeal. Over to you, Reverend.
Yeah, there are two open doors, really. One is the court system, and the other one is the parliament. You see, the parliament has the power to call for a referendum in this matter.
But it was the parliament that gave him the power.
Yes, if they gave him the power, and the power conflicts with the constitution prevails. So whatever you have done short of the constitution, your own is null and void. They should complete the whole of going to the people. It's obvious that the Chief Justice, as it is now, will not get that office because there's going to be a vacuum. There's already a judgment that it can no longer stay. So there's going to be an acting
Elizabeth Kwanzaa is already acting.
In that period of that, the president can go back to the parliament and set a referendum. We also know that referendums are manipulated by the presidency. So these are really president have things to do to give at least semblance of the fact that you are working with the people, not that you are ruling over them, not that you are lording it over them. And I think that leaders in Africa should begin to do that. Unfortunately, they just believe that they cannot be faulted. Once they have said something, they don't want to see as if they are slighted. You are a servant of the people, for God, you are not a lord. Once you are elected, you become servant of the people. You listen to what the people say, and then you go by the book, you go by the rule. If we want to live in the jungle, like they normally say Africans are in the jungle, if they want to return Africans back to the jungle, let them just dissolve all the parliament and say there is no law. They will know. But if you agree to live by the law, you came by the law, and you are saying, and you are not abiding by that law, it is obvious that just like we are talking about Nigeria, there are laws that are made, and then when you feel as an executive, you feel that the law is too slow for you, you feel that the law is reducing what your power should be, and then you go above it, you are setting yourself against the people. And that's what leads to anarchy. You know, there's something that happens. Zimbabwe has been on the rough side. They cannot afford another showdown by the people to the government. So they should please learn to listen to the people. And you know, they can even manipulate the justice system right now, because you go for an appeal. The appeal court can throw out what they do.
Because they are beneficiaries.
They go to the Supreme Court, and then maybe at the end of the Supreme Court, they tell you, oh, the president is right. But as far as I'm concerned, the current Chief Justice cannot sit in that power.
Okay. The current Chief Justice cannot sit in that power, but the orders are given by the president already. Now, tell me, in this regard, who do you think the president would work with after he said gave him 5 years extension, and there is an open door, 2 open doors, according to Reverend, for appeal? And when there is a case that has been appealed for making a mistake, anything can happen. Who do you think the president will work with?
Yeah, what the president really wants is to come back to that power. So if with the agitations now, the president becomes restless about it, he will get the script. The script that has been acted out, he can move the script to somebody else that will be faithful and loyal and honest, as we say in Nigeria, to that script, and demonstrate per letter that script. The president will be home and dry. So the issue of Malabar will just be pushed aside. But if Malabar insists that he will be able to carry on or carry through and able to convince the president, this matter is just the beginning. Because before the president will say, I agree with additional 5 years, some meetings would have taken place. The pros and cons, all that, they would have considered all that. So the agitations we are having from opposition or from the judiciary now, they are foreseen that. So they want to see how well they're able to say true. You can get angry, but how long will your anger last? Forgetting that the president is a desperate person. So in desperation, it's difficult to really curtail such a person. Because before he sets out to do a thing, he would have seen the end. He would have seen some loopholes here and there.
All the calculations.
Yeah, all the calculations that have been done. All the graphs plotted. Before he will now put his pen on the paper to say plus additional 5 years, which was written to the Chief Justice on May 11. That was about Monday or thereabout. And Saturday was his birthday. So all of this would have been put together so that the president will not just come up openly and fool himself to say, I've accepted the additional 5 years to be added, when he knows that it will backfire in no distant time. So all the issues of our opposition here and there, in politics, you can easily settle out opposition parties. Because of the African nature, they'll ask you, let this man stay. I will do this next term, I will help you to come on board in the subsequent elections. Once that bargain is done and is sealed, you discover that the other thing will die down. We are saying it academically that this one will go here now. Nothing will happen at the end of the day. We have seen worse cases in Nigeria than we are seeing in Zimbabwe. Because an issue will arise in Nigeria. Before you want to make some statement, a second issue will just come up that will divert our attention. The president of Zimbabwe, Emerson, is going to create a diversionary issue now. So people just, okay, let Malaba just continue while we face this other more pressing matter. So that's what I expect the president will do. He's smart enough.
He's smart enough?
Yes.
Barrister Henry, do you see him being smart enough to divert the attention of Zimbabweans to other issues? Forget about Malabar, so Malabar Luke can continue being the Chief Justice of that country.
Presently, the issue at stake has to do with constitutional issues. It is not the issue that borders on the bread and tea that the people have not been given, or the palliatives that the people of Zimbabwe, their leaders fail to give to them. We are talking about a constitutional issue. A man's tenure has come to an end, constitutionally, and somebody wants to extend it because of an executive order. Somebody wants to extend it because certain persons at the parliament who belong to the same party have decided to gang up themselves together and said, From 70 years, we are making it 75 years. Nobody is questioning that. But the issue there is, what does the Constitution say for now in respect of an issue as this? Take it back to the people. That is the position of the law. I know of a truth that the opposition on their own part will not give in, because they are lawyers. They are not politicians. Except if they decide for themselves to be forgotten by history. Because they are, you challenge the Constitution, issues that borders on the Constitution. It is another era for the men in the Supreme Court to give a judgment that tomorrow people will make reference to. If they are men of honor, they will do the needful. They will look at the issues critically. At the point in time, they took it before the ZANU members at the parliament. They did not look at that particular area. What did that area say about in respect of it? That if at all the president is to do this, what did it say? Taking it back to the people. But himself, they didn't allow that to be. Again, what did the Constitution say? Is the person still occupying office, is he going to benefit from it? These are the issues. So, but I know of a truth, except they are not men of honor. If they are truly men of honor, they cannot give it. They cannot be bribed.
Are you sure?
If they are men of honor.
We're talking about Africans right now.
No. I'm being candid to you. We still have men of honor, even in this part of the world. Notwithstanding the fact that sometimes, because of certain things, we tend to forget where we are coming from. There are still men of honor, even in Nigeria here, who can stand the test of them. Men who can come and challenge the activities of government. Men who can say that, man, you have done wrong here, you have done wrong, notwithstanding the pressures, notwithstanding the threats, notwithstanding all that the government uses as its paraphernalia to challenge your action. So I believe that the lawyers in Zimbabwe, considering the issue as it were today, constitutional issue as it were, they will go all out. But the only fear I have is the issue of the conflict, because the men in the Supreme Court are part of the suit, and these people are their beneficiaries, as it were. Will these people who are beneficiaries, will they be men of honor and say, no, we cannot be part of this? Let the Constitution take, because the Constitution is the ground law. Everybody runs the Constitution. We all as Zimbabweans have agreed that the Constitution should be followed, as it were. Will they be men of honor and accept that fact that the Constitution is the ground law, that the Constitution take precedent to every other thing, as it were? That is only where the issue will come.
And so, that's your fear?
That is my fear.
Okay, I'm pretty your fear shouldn't materialize, because right now, for what you're saying, it's like that fear is going to materialize.
Yes.
Don't you know that some persons that are in that suit, they fall into the same category?
Yes.
And maybe some of them are like, you know, in the good book of Mr. President, and maybe also promises have been made to them. I mean, putting all this together, does it mean that Emerson is seeing something ahead of the forthcoming election that is trying to prevent?
Well, I don't want to go into his mind that I'm not privy to. But I know that every politician, after an election, they are working for the next election. And they do everything. In Africa, whether coup or anything, they do it to just to remain in office. He began by changing the constitution, you know, which is something that I keep wondering why. When an African leader comes into power, he knows that the constitution does not give him some power. He wants to get it by all means. And he goes to the parliament, and the parliament, without doing their work, without doing anything, just acquiesce to the president because of the material needs, forgetting the people they're supposed to be representing. Like I said, even the judiciary sometimes can also be enemies of themselves because of personal interest, like we're saying. I don't know how many judges constitute their Supreme Court.
16. There are 16 of them.
Okay, there are 16. I'm not sure the 16 will be up to 70 years. So if you are going to, yes, I'm not sure all of
You're
them
making a strong point there.
You know, because at the end of the day, if the case has to get to the Supreme Court, those who are part of that problem cannot be part of the decision. You know, you take other persons who are not affected by it and see how they grapple with it. Sometimes they can be camaraderie. But when you're talking about camaraderie, you have to ask yourself, how does the nation work? I keep also asking persons, once they are 70, what is remaining in your life that you think no other person? There are people who are brighter and younger at heart, who can do some things, and you give them chance. You should go and retire and stay at home and give yourself some peace. So I believe that the judiciary can save themselves and save the nation of the heartache that whatever it comes from, because I know that they've already talked of an appeal. Let them appeal. But like I also said, the parliament should begin to think and look at how do we, if we think we must stay, how do we remedy this situation? What laws do we do? Well, like I said, they can call for a referendum. Calling for a referendum doesn't take years. You know, you can decide to do that. But you must ask yourself the question, is that what is necessary now? There is nobody, and I keep saying, you may not know whether the next person you are going to put as chief judge will even be more loyal to you as president than the person you are trying to install there now forever, because that's the person you are. You don't know the people's heart. So the president shouldn't always be concluding. Just like we saw in Nigeria, so, okay, this is the Inspector General of Police. Everybody thought that without him, the country cannot live. But see how he was removed. Was he not removed? Somebody else not there. There are people, see, there are many big intellectuals, persons of proven integrity, who has the nation at heart, who can do. You see, you don't need to have the Chief Justice in your pocket to be able to win an election, because the Chief Justice doesn't win and he doesn't vote. You see, he's always to be able to do things for people to vote for you and create an environment. And the Chief Justice, the judiciary should know that that is the last hope of the common man. So if the common man do not have hope, then anarchy will come in and then jungle justice becomes the case the end of the day. Once the people revolt, then the nation will not be there for you to govern.
All right, now these people revolted because of this particular issue.
Yes, there will be some bits of skirmishes here and there. What the President Emerson is doing, it's not like in mathematics you have a formula. From your formula, there's an expected result. And he has done his calculations. And we are now appealing to his conscience to change the formula. And the formula in this case is Malabar. If he changes the formula, what happens to the results? And for the president to do what he's doing is not far-fetched from what is still happening in Nigeria right now. A lot of Nigerians are clamoring that Mr. President of Nigeria should take a minister away from his cabinet, Patami. But the president said no. But a larger majority of Nigerians, we are saying, remove him. Because the president of Nigeria has a formula. He wants to achieve something. So if you now ask him to change that formula, what happens to the expected results? So, president of Zimbabwe will insist by all means. If they cannot be bribed, opposition or some other judges, they can be lobbied and be promised one or two things. And before you know it, as an African, your wife will tell you, allow president to do that. He has promised us this. But then you are confronted by the challenge your wife will give you at home, your children, and God helping such a judge, your community. You say, this is our turn. Just allow him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So that we can see this road to our junction will tie them. So pressures will come from within.
Yeah.
So for us to say here, a constitution, man-made constitution, it was tampered with not quite long. From 60 or 65, in 2013, it was made 70. It was tampered with. And constitutional tampering is a common thing with African presidents or leaders. So to me, 5 years is not far. Let him go back to power and let there be peace. Because there's no way they can outrun the president, a sitting president.
So you mean Malabar Luke should remain in power as just chief
That's
justice
what
of
the president
Zimbabwe?
wants.
So it should be that way.
It should be that way because the opposition parties, we can say no here, but events will unfold that Malabar will still become
Chief Justice.
Chief Justice. What are we going to do? We're appealing to the conscience of some persons that should look at the constitution, as Barrister is saying. Constitutional matters. They will know. But this constitution is not helping us. Just like you have a pair of shoes, no longer your size. You bought that when you're having size 40, and now your foot is 41. You look for a way to adjust it. So it's the adjustment that he's going to do now. We know African presidents. We are talking under ideal conditions.
Yes.
Whereby 1 + 1 will be 2. But at times 1 + 1 will not be 2. Depends on the speed. Between 1 and 2, you have 1.1, 1.3. So it will get there.
So,
all right, no, well, you are on your own part.
Because he said Malabo Luke should remain.
No. For my brother here, the angle at which he's looking at it is looking at it as if we're in a normal scenario. You see, the truth still remains that sometimes we should be able to change the system, as it were, and get things done right. We cannot continue to live in the past. A man cannot plant cassava and expect to reap yam. It's not possible. If we continue to say because of the pressure, because there will be anarchy, because people will die, because certain things will happen to the common man, and then what is wrong will continue to be wrong. The man has tampered with the Constitution. People are there to question his action. That is the role of the lawyer in the society. In the society, the role of a lawyer, you are, the people see you and they believe that you should be able to tell them the truth. And whatever you say, from every indication, you are being sincere. So the opposition leaders in Zimbabwe today, they have stood up, they have decided that wrong the man is going to right. If the man is allowed, as it were, to in the issue of the chief judge, the man will go for that and ask for another thing. Because the moment you give a man a mile, he will be looking for kilometers, as it were. The man, if they now decide not to challenge his action now, tomorrow the man will try to amend the constitution to become a life president. Or that constitutionally, maybe it's not supposed to be more than 2 terms, as it were. The man will go on to ensure that the constitution will make it that the president can contest how many times as possible. So these are the issues. So you must curtail the activities, as it were, now. And that is why I believe that the opposition, they will not give him the opportunity to, to do those things that he wants to do. Because they too are calculating. Because they too are looking at it that if we allow this man, as it were, in this, tomorrow we don't know the plans of the man. If he now by the time Malaba is 75 years, and the man, God keeping him, he will now amend the constitution again and say that he should not be 85 years. Robert Mugabe was there almost 100 years in office.
Yes, I'm coming to that because
you understand
Robert never think how the constitution about the justice system.
You understand?
He left it the way it was until Emerson came into the picture. Now, why is Emerson tinkering with the constitution?
These are the issues.
You see, they're operating on 2 levels. Mugabe came in and people saw him as their champion.
The Messiah.
And so he was allowed to do a lot of things without anybody talking. He was a ruthless leader. You talk, you are gone, But Emerson came in and said he was going to be different. This is the issue that I have. He came in and said he was going to be different. He was going to rule by the people's greed. But all of a sudden you are gradually deviating and going to that despotic monarch that Mugabe was. Like I said, both of them lived together, they know who they were. But the issue is, the people couldn't stand Mugabe, and they said, look, this is what, now we must have to stand. If we don't stand against this man, tomorrow he might just dissolve parliament, say parliament is of no use. And just tell you, in fact, even the court said you have go on recess. And it becomes Lord and Master. And that's what the African leaders do. So they must learn to rise up. He's one man. I know very soon, if people are beginning to agitated, he will call in the military. He will call in the police. If those ones don't agree, we call it the reserve. Those who they work together as militia. Look at some of the things. But let us see him. Let people begin to see him the way he is. He's beginning to say to us, he's not a Democrat. He begins to say to us that anything that he wants to get it. And no mass is satisfied with power. Just like people are not satisfied with money. And that's why greed is always on the high side. Okay. Because they are always looking for something. So I believe that Africans, we need to be telling ourselves we are not as bad, we are not as backward as people think we are.
All right.
We reason and want people to listen to us.
All right. Gentlemen, you're going to take 45 seconds each to summarize your points. What advice do you have for Zimbabwe and, of course, Nigeria or other African countries going through this phase? You talk about tinkering the constitution, trying to bring forth what wasn't there. Your advice, please, briefly.
Yes. Any president at any point in any country we want to make some amendments, it does not do that alone. Judiciary is 100% involved in it. The National Assembly is directly involved in it. So there are compromises here and there. Whatever Emerson is doing, right or wrong, there are collaborators.
In the system.
In the system. So just that the whole thing is now being heaped on Emerson as the president. If, as he suggested, for once, that let's adjust section 328, one way or the other, subsection 1, 2, 3, and 7, and the Chief Justice said, no, it's not going to be beneficial to this country. The president will withdraw a little bit.
But okay, let's accepted it.
Yeah, that's right. If they say, the president says, let's do 1, say, sir, we can actually do 3.
You go ahead and do it.
That's it.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Frank. Barrister Henry.
Well, to me, I still praise the gentlemen in Zimbabwe, the lawyers. They should be steadfast. They should contest all that need to be contentious in court. They should not give up. They should bear in mind that the people look up to them. We cannot continue to be docile. We cannot continue to be pushed to the wall and say nothing happened. Lawyers, as we are, by the grace of God, we are the hope of the common man, because the man in the street believes that he knows what is right and what is wrong. And I believe that the opposition leaders in Zimbabwe will be able to push further. Let them go to appeal, let them go to Supreme Court, and if those men in the Court of Appeal and the men in the Supreme Court are men of honor, they will be able to know that the Constitution is the ground norm and nothing goes contrary to it.
Thank you so much. Also to bring to your mind that lawyers also are the ones standing for Emerson Mnangagwa.
Yes,
You're making a point.
Yes,
right.
They should know. They should know.
I want to ask the judiciary to stand fast.
So
On their integrity for the sake of the nation, so that the nation will not go into apathy and crises that they don't need come up again. There will be both human, material, and economic losses for just one person's pride. So the judiciary should stand steadfast and work with the Constitution.
Thank you so much. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. Like, we'll drop the right line. Zimbabwe is a legal battle. Lawyers versus lawyers, with the executive backing one part of this legal practitioner. How do you think it's going to pan out? We are watching. Ours is to report back to you. Bye for now.